Chip, it's great to see you once again. An Alabama MTSU matchup for you to call. How's everything
Yeah,
going as we get ready for the season to start?
yeah, excited about the new season, and this will be the fourth time that Middle and Alabama have played, and it's almost always been in that obviously in that September time frame, and we've had one really good matchup, and Middle's played pretty well and kind of ran out of steam in the other two matchups, but I expect another competitive contest going into this one, but the Blue Raiders have to play very well, and the one thing that Coach Rick Stockstill has talked about all week long is being able to play cleanly on offense and not give anything away. Alabama's good enough on their own; they just don't need any help.
Coach Saban talked about Coach Stockstill at his press conference on Monday, really praising the program he's built. You've been there for his entire run there. Just what kind of program has he built? Obviously, it's one that's had success.
Yeah, it's been very consistent. They have in middle, like a lot of group of five type programs, spend a good bit of time in September, possibly on the road at a Power Five. Having some payday games, things like that. But sometimes the script doesn't necessarily hold. Ask Miami a year ago, and so it is. They have been consistently in that 7-8 win area, right in the thick of the conference race. They've been in one conference championship game, which I think, if Stock could change one thing, it might be that they were in more would have been in more championship games in Conference USA. But the other goal, getting to the postseason. They've been in bowl games 9 out of the last 11 years. They've got a 2-game bowl winning streak going on right now, and and in our league, we've got some pretty nice destinations when it does come to bowls. I mean, we have won 2 in a row, and neither one have been on the continental United States. One of them was in the Bahamas, and one was in Hawaii.
That's really good for the voice of Blue Raiders,
That's
Chip Walters.
it's right. It sometimes it does cramp a little bit of the basketball schedule, but we've always been able to work through that.
Absolutely. Plenty of time to get home to Murfreesboro. You mentioned a great win last year against Miami. What made that night special? What led to success for Middle Tennessee?
It what led to the success was early on, and Middle forced 3 turnovers early, including a pick six, which kind of set the tone and put Miami in a situation where they had to play catch up all night long. And along with that, there came a point early in the second half where uh, Miami had an opportunity to cut it to 7, and they had a fourth and whatever, down inside the 20-yard line, and it was complete. The play was it was a completed pass, but to the 2-yard line, and it was a fourth and goal. So Middle got the ball back on the 2-yard line and immediately turned around and got a 98-yard touchdown pass. And it was just a situation where wide receiver got behind the defense. They took a shot, they hit it, and went back up by 14 or 17 at the time, and that really flipped that game around. And I think they played with a lot of confidence going into it. Felt like they had a good plan. Felt like they had a good matchup because Middle, as a lot of Conference USA or Sun Belt schools are built on speed. You're not going to typically win the weight battle up front with, whether it's an SEC or whatever Power Five type of offensive line or defensive line. So you've got to have skill players that have speed. And Middle matched Miami's speed, which says a lot. And the ironic stat that came out of that game is that Middle is now 3-0 all time against Miami. They played twice back in the 30s when the visiting team had to take trains, and now here we are in the 2000s, and that was a great win to kind of start the season, and then the way that they won the bowl game coming from behind against San Diego State. I think really put a good taste in the team's mouth going into winter workouts, spring practice. So that's one thing that Stock talked about earlier this week was just that the the upbeat attitude throughout the entire offseason led into what has been, and he's not quick to pass out a ton of compliments about fall camp, but he's talked about how his team has really gone about it in a very upbeat, professional manner.
Let's talk about this year's Blue Raider team. Starting on offense, who should Alabama fans know about? Who are some of the big playmakers?
Well, you got to look at Nick Vattiato, who inherits the starting quarterback job. Nick is an interesting story because 2 years ago he was being redshirted when Chase Cunningham got injured in San Antonio, and came in and started 5 games, and ended up being the MVP of the Bahamas Bowl. And so last year, Cunningham was back healthy, and Coach Stock approached him and said, "Hey, I'd like to get you your redshirt year back." And Nick was happy to do that, which is pretty unusual in this day and time of college football. And so he used that year, played in 2 games last year, but now he's back. He's a natural born leader, uh, just extremely bright. Uh, Obviously, he can make things happen on on the field. He's got a good crew of wide receivers around him. DJ England Chisholm, he's the guy that had the 98-yard catch against Miami. He's the outside threat. He's 5'8", but he can fly. Jeremy Tate is kind of a slot inside receiver, H back kind of guy. He's a transfer from Memphis. Holden Willis is a new guy to the roster, transfer from South Florida. And then we have Elijah Metcalf, was a guy who kind of had a little bit of a breakthrough last year. So he I think has a chance to really expand on his role. As far as the running back position, Frank Peasant is back for his junior year. Peasant is from Pensacola, played at Escambia High School, and they've had some pretty good running backs come out of Escambia High School, like Emmett Smith, guys like that. Peasant is a really versatile guy. He's not going to just kill you coming downhill. He's got some wiggle to him, can catch the ball out of the backfield. And then you've got an offensive line that Stock has said has had as good a fall camp as any offensive line that he's had. So offensively, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Obviously, the in this air raid type offense, the quarterback's got to play well. But since Stock has been here, they've played some version of the spread since he's been here, and this is more of the air raid type. But to make that successful, it's not just throwing it 65 times. You've got to have some success running the football, and then you've got to take care of it. But they talk about always moving forward. They don't like negative plays. They don't mind eating up clock in a controlled passing game. So Mitch Stewart is in his second year, and I think the offensive players are used to him after a year a little bit more, and same goes for him being back used to the offensive players.
Then how about on the defensive side of the ball?
Defense, the first thing I look at is a guy who's not there, and that's Jordan Ferguson, who started basically for 4 years, ended up being the MVP of the Hawaii Bowl last year. He's now playing on Sundays, and but the thing is, out of that front four defensively, there are on the two deep, 7 of the 8 guys on the two deep of the front four have either started or played starter like minutes. But Zaylen Wood, Marley Cook, Jordan Branch, Quindarius Dunnigan, that's going to be your front four guys who have all got a lot of experience. Richard Kinley, whose dad was a former Blue Raider, he's from the Memphis area. He is back after a year where he had some injuries. On the defensive side in the linebacker area, Devin Curtis, middle linebacker, he's the guy that makes all the calls. He's experienced. Parker Hughes, started at the weak side a year ago. Jonathan Butler, you return all three linebackers. And interestingly, one of the strong side linebackers is a young man by the name of Drew Francis. And his dad, Alabama fans might know, his dad was Jeff Francis, former quarterback at Tennessee. And then in the secondary, you lost a couple of guys that were starters from a year ago, but Teldrick Ross, who is the left corner, and Trey Fluellen, the free safety, are both guys who are very experienced and are both on the Conference USA watch list. Jacoby Thomas, sophomore from Tullahoma, Tennessee, really came on at the end of the year, moved into that and got the starting nod at strong safety, intercepted a pass that clinched a game at FIU in the final week of the regular season that locked down a bowl game. And then Deontay Stanley played in a reserve role, and he's going to get the start Saturday at the right corner. So that's kind of how Middle's going to line up in basically a 4-3 situation. Sometimes they can go, go nickel. They can play nickel a lot just depending on down and distance.
Well, the Blue Raiders start the season against an SEC team in Alabama, and then it's kind of rare to see this. You're going to go right back on the road next week and play another SEC team when you go to Missouri. Just what can you tell us about the rest of the schedule coming up for Middle Tennessee and what the race might look like in Conference USA?
Roger, I remember a few years ago, Middle started the year at Alabama, at Tennessee, at Kentucky. And but the last time we went to Missouri, we won and got a win there. After that, in the non-conference portion of the schedule, back home for Murray State and Colorado State. And we played one at Colorado State a year ago, so that's the return game. And then Conference USA is instituted in October, kind of the Maction schedule formula. It's going to be midweek games in October. And so Middle will play, will open up with its rival, Western Kentucky. Will open the conference race in Bowling Green, then home for Jacksonville State. Well, and here's the interesting part. The game at Western is the Thursday after the Colorado State game. Then 6 days later, you've got Jacksonville State. 6 days after that, you've got Louisiana Tech at home. And then 6 days after that, you've got a game at Liberty. Middle's picked third behind Western Kentucky and Liberty. The downside is Middle has to go to both Western and Liberty. If they can pick up a win either one of those road stops, they're going to have a good opportunity. The November schedule, real quick, is at New Mexico State, FIU, and UTEP at home, and finish it out at Sam Houston. And so that's the Conference USA portion of it. I think Middle's got a schedule again that's manageable enough to get back into a bowl game. Again, there's a couple of critical road games there that can give them an opportunity at a conference championship game type deal. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. And of course, it really, for your kids, when you go through your entire winter workout and spring season and you look at the schedule outside the locker room, and Alabama is the first name listed, I mean, you're going to have their attention that whole time. So I think they're excited. They've been in these type of situations and these type of environments before. It's interesting. The last time Middle played at Alabama, Brent Stockstill, Coach Stockstill's son, was the starting quarterback. Now he's the quarterback coach at Middle. So he's Nick Vattiato was asked earlier in the week if he'd had conversations with Brent about playing in that environment. He said, yeah, we talked about it some. He goes, but, I just want to get my guys out there and play as well as we can, as long as we can. And our objective is to go win, but we want to get better every week, no matter what happens.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to Saturday, the season opener for both Alabama and Middle Tennessee. Chip, thank you so much for giving us a great breakdown on the Blue Raiders. Have safe travels later in the week to Tuscaloosa. Look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Roger. Thanks.